Hey and welcome, Miss Kira Speaks. Before we get started, a few reminders. First, stick around to the end of the video. Help your girl get that retention time up. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and share with your friends because sharing is caring. Don't be afraid to give a like and go ahead and turn on those notifications, please, because between me and YouTube, you just never know. That said, we are here for another episode of Married to Medicine, Season 10, Episode 3, Pamper Party Crasher. You know the Bravo shows, they love to give us a good old montage as we open. So we see Toya, and she is letting Latisha know that since Dr. G is having a bachelor party, that her, along with Phaedra, is going to throw Latisha a pamper party, and the ladies are going to get dressed up in their lingerie. Quad is home in her kitchen spilling the tea while Phaedra is over at her son's soccer practice. But our first big scene is Dr. Simone and Dr. Jackie having lunch. Yes, come on, giving us that nostalgia, that OG Married to Medicine vibes. I so miss this. Love seeing the ladies get together. Now, Simone had been skipping her lunch, but she is here for her sis, Dr. Jackie. So they start to talk, and Dr. Jackie starts talking about one of her patients coming in thinking she has a yeast infection that just wouldn't go away. Well, we know that's a ST. You picked the letter. And she said she hadn't been sleeping around, so you know what that means. Dr. Jackie said she's not here to bail out anybody. So then the conversation pivots to sweet tea, or NutraSweet, as Dr. Jackie was calling her. And Dr. Simone is like, oh child, she's stressed out, she's overwhelmed, catering to Dr. G and planning this wedding all by herself, kinda. Now, she talked to Dr. Simone about getting an assistant because you know Dr. G likes to have that din-din on the table when he gets home. We all remember that. And Dr. Jackie's like, oh, what? Yes, you heard right. She wants an assistant because she wants somebody to go and get her groceries for her so she could just cook them. Child, Instacart, DoorDash. Here, one of our grocery stores has something called Peacock delivery. Child, you can even order from Target and they'll bring it right on out to your car. But what got me is Dr. Simone. Dr. Simone, now you're making Gen X look bad. Yes, I am Gen X. I am closer to Toya's age than her age, but dang, it's like work smarter, not harder. She's saying by Sweet Tea's age, you know, she was working and, you know, butcher, baker, and candlestick maker, basically. But we're not about to do things that way. I remember when I had my first son, I don't remember what I was giving him to eat for dinner. It wasn't like no McDonald's. It might have been like some frozen green beans or something like that, you know, to expedite the process. And my mother I was like, listen, ma'am, I'm not you. We're not about to do all of these nights of child, times have changed, okay? So don't make us younger folk have to struggle, okay? Like I said, work smarter, not harder. Especially if you got it, life just don't have to be that doggone stressful. So then we go over to Dr. Heavenly, and she is sharing a meal with Latisha. I said, Dr. Heavenly, you are one shady lady. Dr. Heavenly is getting your girl some shots to get her warmed up to tell all her business, and she does just that. So they're talking wedding, and it turns out that Latisha does have a wedding planner. I said, you could have fooled me. Now he's going to call later on in the episode, and we find out from the previews that she probably got this planner from Phaedra, because this is the one that tried to sue Candy and that Phaedra was representing. I said, bravo. And Phaedra, come on now. The wedding is just a week away, and she had to change venues because it's supposed to rain, so she had to go from outdoors to indoors. And basically they're getting to a conversation where Dr. Heavenly is telling her that she's telling her to always have your own. And Latisha's like, she doesn't ask for money. She has her own. I said, child, you got a little access to the money. You could have fooled us. So Heavenly's asking if he throws the money in her face. Of course he does. And we are going to get a flashback because you know, good old Bravo. And Latisha's saying Quad may just have been right about a few things, like Dr. G being controlling. Told you last episode, she's ignoring those Yelp reviews. So Dr. G, he decided that he was going to play a prank on Sweet Tea about the alarm system that she keeps forgetting to set. Sir, you can't turn it on from your phone. I digress. But he decides to pull a prank on her, and she didn't appreciate it. Got the lady all riled up talking about people broke into the house and they were armed. And I just can't with Dr. G. She says basically like, she's not your child. You're not going to talk to her like that. She ended up going off on him. Do I think it got her anywhere? Essentially, no, it did not. So in her confessional, Heavenly is saying that this sounds all too familiar. And it does. I think at one point Heavenly said to her, like, if all this is going on now, kind of like, what do you think is going to happen later? And she basically thinks that it's all going to work out once they get married. Ma'am, that is ass backwards, and it doesn't work that way. I've never been married, but everybody I know, it only gets worse. We see her saying that it's not about the monetary, and flashback to Quad saying the same exact thing. But mind you, Sweet Tea didn't watch the show, or that's what she told us. But now, Quad was right about some things. So in her confessional, Heavenly is saying that Quad got a divorce and that she doesn't want the same thing for Sweet Tea, and also that the two of them ended up with mugshots, but we ain't gonna get into that. So over to Dr. Simone and Cecil. They are out at a restaurant and they are having a meal with the boys. It is post-spring break. They're fresh from Cancun, I believe. Michael is now 20. He is playing basketball at a community college. I said, didn't he go somewhere else before? And Miles is 24. And you know, Miles done been here, Howard, then there, then back. And so now he's back at Georgia State and he's living at home. Another two that we have watched grow up. And these two kind of reminded me, not in age of my nephew, because my nephews are 20 and 25, not 20 and 24. But Simone is asking them after school, what's the next step? Michael plans to come home and Simone is looking like, no. And he's like, well, you could pay for me to stay someplace else. And Cecil's trying to flip it into like an investment type of property, but Simone is like, they're basically not on the same page. And that's very unfortunate. And that they are coddling these kids, but Cecil is just trying to give them more than they had. What, child, what? Somebody get down in the comments and let me know what Cecil's doing now. Is he still doing real estate? I don't know. And now this is the thing about kids. I made this mistake, and it starts from when they're younger, not sitting down to have these fundamental conversations with your partner about how you're going to raise your children. But nobody stops to think about when they get older and they're out of high school like these kids and they're in college, and all the decisions that you two will still have to make and the parenting that you're still going to have to do. Now, me, I'm doing it on my own, so I kind of make my own rules. But it's still just conversations that if you intend to be married and have a partner, that you definitely need to have. Dr. Heavenly is at home with Alaura and they about to make some spaghetti and she wants her to find her a good man at college. Heavenly, don't tell that baby that. And I'm hoping that Heavenly is a little different off camera with Alaura and not feeding her with the BS, giving her a little more of that Dr. Heavenly Academy, if you know what I mean. And baby, if she don't say they need to put a little something in the spaghetti, I said, ew, that sounds unsanitary. Laura's like, what do you mean? She's like, I'll tell you later. So Dr. Damon comes in. These two have been married 26 years and these two just could not get their story right as to how this relationship happened. It was so funny. But the long and short of it is, to my surprise, they both want Alaura to stay local. She's asking, you two went away, you know, her brothers went away, And Dr. D's like, he don't mean to sound sexist, but the boys is one thing, but if something happens to baby girl, he want to be able to hop in that car and get there quickly to handle the business that needs to be handled. And I understand that as a parent. Trust me, like I said, my oldest is trying to hit the door running. Do I want to let him go? Yes, no, but you got to let them go, and you got to let them fly, because Lord knows. Because, baby, it was coming up with all different things to try to get Alaura to go to Spelman and work in the hair shop from home. Listen, baby, one thing is for certain. They talking about global warming. I mean, just grasping at straws. Global warming. Wind. We didn't have wind when I... Dr. Heavenly is a mess. But at the end of the day, Alaura is a smart girl, and she must have put that foot down or gave them some type of presentation, because I do believe Miss Combs, Little Combs, is at FAMU where she wanted to. So Dr. Eugene takes the boys shopping, and they're in the store looking for some sneakers, some school shoes. He's asking how school is. Kids, they don't really want to talk. He's like, what's the 411? I forgot the lingo he used, but they're looking at him like, Dad, like nobody uses those words. But I just love to see this. I love to see the men with their boys interacting, and he's saying that his dad was a lieutenant in a maximum security prison, but they spend time together. So his boys have been up under their mom, so now he wants to do boy things and hang out with them. So in regards to the conversation they had last episode about the birds and the bees, he wants to know, is there anything that you had questions about that you might have not wanted to say in front of your mom? So one of them gonna ask, what's the period? He's like, that's a question for your mom. But we know Eugene is a doctor, so he is going to tell them all about menses, okay? And they were looking like, ew, so ew is chunky. Typical boy stuff, okay? So our last scene is we get to this pamper party, and we see them in there in like a hotel suite. It's very nice. They're setting up. We have fellas, with no shirts on and they little boxes. I mean, some of them had some grills. I said, okie dokie. Now I was laughing because when Simone showed up, Dr. Jackie was calling her Inspector Gadget, but I'm like, most of y'all had like that trench kind of coat on with your little lingerie underneath. And I was like, now for a pamper party, I might have wanted something a little more loose fitting, because Toya is saying this is not about sex. This is about, relaxation, pampering, massages and whatnot. Dr. Heavenly is being Dr. Heavenly, but when they start to massaging and Toya hits her with a little whipped cream, she looked like somebody need to put her fire out. Okay, so Latisha finally shows up, her sister Kanisha, and the maid of honor, I cannot remember her name, and I was laughing because she was like, I wonder what the fellas are doing, and somebody was like the same thing, and she was like, no, Greg is conservative. Ma'am, you watch the show? Okay. So I was going to do all the women and all the men, but we'll ping pong back and forth. Not exactly how they had it, but speaking of the men, they are over at Cecil's house, I believe, down by that bar area. Who is there? Who has showed up for the festivities? Curtis. So, they shoot the breeze a little bit. They get on this party bus, and as soon as they get on the party bus, you see it's shaking. You see some clapping going on. I said, oh, okay. Conservative, huh? Sweet tea? Okay, girl. They passing Dr. Damon, his blow up doll, because they're like, how it went last time. They got bills with Greg's face on it. Curtis is using the stripper's hand to smack the other stripper's hand on the booty, because in one of the scenes, Dr. Jackie's like, not to touch her. And I was like, okay, Jackie. Now, they was playing a little bit coy, some of them, because they didn't want to get in trouble. And here goes Dr. G. Somebody said something about taking his pants down. If I take my pants down, they not coming back up. I said, yuck. So in the middle of the ladies' festivities, this wedding planner calls. You know they got to take the call on speakerphone. So she takes the call on speakerphone. He's like, well, what happened was because we changed the venue, and because you changed the venue and you wanted to get the things that you wanted, the things that you needed, and you wanted the vendors that you had to get the vendors, the same vendors, and it's going to cost you some more money, and it's going to be more money. Child, the long and the short of it, sir, said it will be an additional $13,000 to $14,000. Damn, the ladies in the confessionals are going ham. Heavenly's like, this is a omen. I think Simone or one of them is like, I'd have canceled the doggone wedding. So now her sister goes to calm her down. At first I thought she touched her, but I think she went to like take the phone, and Latisha loses it. I mean, loses it. And she's screaming and yelling at her. Toya's telling her like, all right, don't talk to your sister like that. But she looked like, nook if you buck, we knucking and bucking and ready to, with your sister. Like, what be going on in your household? So much so that they are like pulling her away from her. Then she's screaming and yelling off in like the corner. Child, all of this that they showed us in the previews that they made us believe was her and Quad. It was her and her sister. So over with the men, they finally arrived to the gentlemen's clubs. The husbands, they don't want no smoke. He's talking about his wife carries. I said, you better let him know. And then Eugene has to talk Dr. G out of inviting the strippers to the wedding. He's like, it's my wedding. He was like, no, you can't. He's like, this is not, I almost said Love Jones, the best man. This is not the best man. I said, go on, tell him, Eugene, get your friends together, because he was up there on stage shaking something. I said, sir, what are you trying to make $1 talking about? Dr. G is a whole entire mess. So now Latisha is crying. She finally apologizes. Her and her sister make up because, the sister didn't mean no harm. Heavenly is kind of saying that the whole thing, I think they're still having this conversation off to the bathroom. Meanwhile, like I said, the maid of honor is sitting right there getting her ear hustle on, while Heavenly is saying it's all rushed, they're not ready. And then she's basically repeating because they're like, do you know something we don't know? But she's repeating the conversation that Sweet Tea had with her at this restaurant, and she's reiterating that Dr. G is controlling, which we all knew. And this, now they were telling her, I kind of felt two ways about it, because it was 2 days to the wedding. So they're kind of telling her like, you shouldn't be saying that. And I kind of believe in saying how you feel, but they may have been right. Maybe this is not the time. Maybe this is not the place. I understand from watching B. Scott did a live with Heavenly and Quad that there was more to the conversation, but just maybe not the time and the place for this conversation. She probably should have told her that when they was sitting down, they was on film then that he was controlling, but she didn't. But Heavenly's mouth got her in a situation, as we seen from some little sneak clips, because you can't go on social media without seeing anything. But I'm not going to tell you, you'll see next week, because everything is going to work out in the end. But what I saw initially, it didn't look so good for Dr. Heavenly. So Phaedra gets a text that says, I'm outside. And when she goes and comes back, who is doing their little walk into the joint but Quad, Miss Quad? Child, Heavenly squeals. I would, but this microphone will go crazy. And then she starts talking. She is laughing. The ladies are gagged. Their faces are dropping. I mean, Heavenly gets up to give her a hug, and Toya's like, that's your friend? That's your friend? Real TikTok, like, that's your friend now? Like, damn, Toya. So Phaedra introduces Quad to Latisha and Kanisha. In the confession, baby, the women are all confusion. Like, in what world? I think this is Dr. Jackie. Would the ex-wife come to the current wife? We all know what it is. We all know what it's hitting for. And it was a scheme that Todd had set up to come to us with the book. Okay? Now, Toya was upset, but Quad was invited. Phaedra was like, well, I mean, y'all was asking where she was at, so I decided to Bring her here, I said. Not Quad, Phaedra. Quad was invited by Phaedra. We was asking about Quad, so Feifei decided that she would deliver. But girl, you know what we meant. And that goes back to Dr. Jackie, I believe in episode 1, saying how Phaedra was cunning. So Quad congratulates her. She brings her a gift. She says that there's no animosity. Latisha's like, girl, come on, sit down next to me now. Meanwhile, in the confessional, she's saying like she got to play nice. But Toya is not trying to hear her. She's like, just the other day, you didn't want us bringing up Quad's name. And now you tell her to come sit next to you. I said, tell us how you really feel, girl. So Sweet Tea is like, well, yeah, that was my engagement party. Like, that's different. She's like, and what is this? I said, got her on that one. Latisha's saying, it's not your bachelorette party, child. You would think it was, the way Toya was carrying on. And Toya was like, it is. I'm hosting it for you. Like, I'm hosting it for you. Like, I run it up in here. I'm in charge of the girls. So we get a flashback to last year's reunion, or the last reunion, to see all the beef that has transpired between Quad and Toya, which, like I said, this ain't the first year. So somebody's saying like they'd like to catch, oh, I know what happened. Dr. Simone was asking Quad like, hey, where you been? And Toya's like, you don't care. And they're saying that, they'd like to catch up, but isn't the time or the place. And Toya's like, Phaedra, okay, you can get your friend and escort her out. So Quad's asking, Latisha, like, does she want her to leave? And Quad says in her confessional that Toya wants her off the show. So Latisha, Sweet Tea, basically says, maybe it would be best. Baby, Miss Toya was pissed off. She said she was leaving, and that is where the episode ends. Sorry if I got a little distracted in this recap, but for me, I was a little 50-50 when it came to the Toya situation. Like, yes, baby girl went from 0 to 100 real quick. And just like I said about Sweet Tea in the last episode, never let them see you sweat. And you definitely gave bother to Quad. But at the same time, it was like she was the only one that was really keeping it funky. So now on the next episode, we are supposed to get Latisha and Dr. G's wedding. We've heard some rumors about Heavenly. So let's see whether she's there or whether she ain't there. You guys let me know what you thought about this episode. Get down in the comments, or you could just let me know that you stopped by. And please, I am trying to stay on track. Join me back here next week for episode 4. Until then, peace.